I'll be in Atlanta at the Southern Fried Game Room Show, and Butch will be in Denver.
Yeah.
So we're splitting up the team, and it's a good thing. I want to thank my friend Jerry Thompson's way over there, and Byron Rance is in the back, and Mike, well, the guys up at the booth and everything like that. It's really a great show with a lot of people working really hard, a lot of volunteers doing their thing. And, it was pretty cool to see Nolan Bushnell. I never met him, but I started in the industry in 1975. And those Atari games really made a lot of money. It really created our industry. It didn't exist. There was no such thing as a coin-operated game. And I actually have Atari Pong serial number 17 in one of my offices. And a little known fact is that you had to collect the game from the back of the game. There was no coin door on the front to open the front of it. It just had a coin slot, and you had to wiggle your way behind the game and open up the game and take the cash box out. And it still has the Magnavox TV in it, and it works, which is a lot more to say, than a lot of games that are out there actually right now. Those days in the game business, and here comes Joe Bott, welcome, Joe.
Late as usual.
I thought you were bringing some food for us or something like that. What happened? You're shot. Sure. You're shot.
You didn't need your food, that's for
Anybody wants to go to Chinatown later, that's what I've been promised after this, so that's how they got me to stay here. It was also mentioned by Nolan about Asteroids had the first MPU microprocessor, right, in 88 probably, right? And I remember my first location that got an Asteroids game was a pizzeria in Harlem. And the day after it went up there, the guy in the pizzeria called me up and he says, "Hey Jack, you gotta come, the machine don't work." So I went up, the machine don't work, because I opened up in the game and it was full of money, so it was out of order. And I bought a second Asteroids machine, and I got up to having 4 Asteroids machines in that game, in that arcade, in that pizzeria. It was an arcade. We couldn't put more than 4 games in New York City, or it was actually an arcade. And those games made so much money that we really couldn't count the money. I know that sounds silly. We had to weigh the quarters. So I still remember that, 5 pounds of quarters is $100. So that's really what they say a good problem to have is. That's a really good problem to have, that you really don't have time in a location to count the money, you have to weigh it. So give or take a handful or 2 of quarters, who cared? It was, that's what it was in those days. Anybody know who Elon Musk is? Okay. Does anybody know what Elon Musk said yesterday, or I think it was yesterday? When was it?
1 billion shares.
Right. So Elon Musk said, he took the stage and explained, though we think we're flesh and blood participants in a physical world, we're almost certainly computer-generated entities living inside a more advanced civilization's video game. So think about that for a minute. You could be like, in that roller coaster tycoon game, like one of those little
Rob Zombie
in a Sims game. You could be Rob Zombie in a Sims game. That's what you could be. And I could be some guy that started another pinball company in that Sims game. We're going to torture this guy. We're going to make him start a pinball company. We're going to torture him. We're going to make him lose his life. So that was kind of interesting, because Elon Musk is a pretty smart guy. I saw some of our hats running around. I don't see any right now, but the JerseyJack pinball hat says, "Make pinball great again." And I know I'm not going to get political right now, but I have to say this, right? So we have 3 candidates running. And I have to really wonder, I'm doing some European travel later this year, I really have to wonder what the rest of the world thinks about the United States and our politicians that are running and what we have and how popular or unpopular or how big their hands are, how small their hands are, and all different things like that. But I have to say this, you know, we all work, we all pay taxes, we all feel that we get nothing for our money, right? If Donald Trump should get elected president, and I guess there's a chance that could happen, right? Nobody in this country will go to sleep at night, and whoever falls asleep, they'll just be so excited to wake up, just based on what this guy did or said. Just what's going on? And it'll be like a reality show. And we'll all be in that reality show because we won't actually believe what the heck this guy is going to say or do because he's so unpredictable. It's just kind of an amazing thing we have in this country. So getting the games, getting the pinball, I think we are trying to do our part to make pinball great again. Our customer base, really, I always thank our customer base because that's the place all our games came from. If not for our customer base, who first trusted me and then trusted all the other people that came to the company, we wouldn't have been able to have a company because everybody gave us millions of dollars and they waited and they waited. And some interesting things happen now at shows. It used to be I'd come to these shows and people would say, hey, where's my game? You know? I'm waiting a year, 2 years, 3 years, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, I would answer, you know, even in the not so good times, I would answer my phone, 1-800-473-JACK. Those people that call me, I do answer the phone, and people are surprised when I answer the phone. They said, you answered the phone? I said, yeah, I answered the phone, you called me. That's why I answered the phone. But now I get a lot of people that come to me and they say, you know, I really love my Wizard of Oz game. I can't believe how good this game is. And they come to me and they say, I love my Hobbit game. I can't wait till the software evolves, but right now it's such a great game. You know, it's such a great game right now. And I know it's going to get better as there's more software updates coming. And it got me to think about it. Sometimes there's a husband and a wife team that come and they say these amazing comments about our games. And now lately I've said to the husband, so let me understand something. You decided to order this game when? Well, I was one of the first orders, 2011. Okay, wow. When did you get your Wizard of Oz game? I got it in 2014 or 15. Wow. So you waited, 2 years, 3 years. Anytime during that time, did your wife say to you, did your friends say to you, did people on social media say, you shouldn't have ordered the game, you're never going to get the game, you lost your money, they're going to be out of business, it's going to be bad? And the husband typically say like this, and the wife typically goes like that. And what really happened is that those customers, they really came to our defense during a lot of that time because they wanted to believe that we would actually make a great game. And sometimes there was 10% or 15 or 20% of them that maybe thought, holy cow, maybe they will go out of business, or maybe they won't make a game, or maybe I will lose my money. But they all got great games, and they all believed. And today, all of those people, they're so galvanized to the JerseyJack Pinball brand, and they truly are our biggest supporters. The distributors that also, some of them are here, the distributors that put up money and waited, and, to build a company in the very beginning from nothing, where you're really borrowing money from your customer base, and they didn't storm the castle with pitchforks and torches and burn the place down. They waited. And I have friends in the industry that have game companies, and they have real games, and not only can they not sell them, but they can't get paid for them. And they ask me often, how did you do that? How did you, and it wasn't a Ponzi scheme or anything, how did you do that? How did you get all those people to believe in you and the people in your company and to give you money and to wait. And, you know, I thank God and I thank our customer base and I thank my family because it was extremely difficult getting the company going. The good thing now, you know, we're more than 5 years old, and just like a little tree when you plant it, you know, when it's a little sapling, it can get blown over by the wind or knocked over by something. And now we're not going to get knocked over by anything now. Now it's just on to build a lot of really great games, get better at what we screwed up on. You know, our games will still break, and we'll still have problems. Hopefully we'll have smaller problems and less things that break. So a JerseyJack pinball works more than doesn't work, and we have a lot of operators now that have our games on location, and it's real easy for me to talk to operators to get them to put JerseyJack pinball machines on location because I'm not really a salesperson, I'm an operator and I'm a technician. So I talk to those people and I say, why don't you try a game? And they say stuff like, well, you know, your game is like $8,000 or $8,500 or $9,000. Why don't you make like a $6,000 pinball machine? And I say, well, if we made a $6,000 pinball machine, it would be making $50 or $40 or $30 a week because nobody wants to play that. And it's not about what the game costs, it's about what the game makes. And our games on location right now are doing multiples of a lot of other new games that are on location because there's more to the game. They're very deep rule set. They're challenging, but they're rewarding. They're not frustrating to play. They're fun. And they get people to come back. And typically what happens with earnings of our games, they go up as the weeks go along because people get deeper into the rules and they find out more to do. And that's pretty cool. It takes a long time to get them there, and we're working on getting it, you know, pushed where we're not shipping out a product that's, you know, not done, but at the same time, we need to satisfy our orders and our operators and our home customers. So it's really good. And it's, honestly, it's really good to be me right now, too, because there were times in there where it wasn't so good to be me. But I didn't have a choice. I still had to be me, you know, and you had to go through it. Before somebody asked Nolan about, you know, hiring your first employee and all that kind of stuff. And when you're a business owner, and I'm sure there's a lot of people here that are business owners, when you're a business owner, you know, the truth, I guess, is that you could have really great employees, whether you have 2 employees or 2,000 employees, to get them to believe in your company and your vision, to act as if they have part of the company, because they do, if they're really committed and they have a passion. If you could get them to think as if all that money that they use, whether they're being paid or they make buying decisions, is their money, and they have a sense of ownership in those things, then you really have passionate people that want to get behind the company and they care about it. Not people that run out at 5 o'clock at night and they don't care if the building burns to the ground. You know, you want people that care about it. They may not care about it as much as you because your name is on the company. You can't leave the company. They could leave and get other jobs and you can't leave. But driving those people and rewarding them, not only financially, but telling them, you did a really great job, and you did a really great job, and sharing a meal, and sharing troubled times, and sharing good times, that's what builds a company. It's more than just hiring somebody and saying, you know, we're going to pay you. How do you get treated when you go to work? What do you actually produce? You know, when I go in that room and I see lines of people waiting to play those games, now, make believe you're me for a split second. I know that's scary. How satisfying is that? When a chef comes out of the kitchen and says to you when you're eating with your wife at a restaurant, is everything okay? You enjoying your dinner? Is everything great? He's not just saying that lip service. Okay, so all the things we do, if you're going to do something, don't even do it unless you're going to put 100% into it. Don't even bother. Because if you're not going to put your passion into it, you're not going to put your heart into it, you're not going to put your time into it, it's not going to come out good. And believe me, a lot of you know, because you were with me at the beginning when we first started selling games on the 9th of January 2011, there's a lot of, maybe there were thousands of times JerseyJack Pinball could have failed. Thousands of times. Thousands of obstacles were in our way. Thousands of obstacles were put in our way. Not for one time during that journey. And it was close. Did I think that we would fail? Because if I thought we would fail, we would certainly fail. You have to have a positive attitude no matter what you do, and you get positive results. So I'm going to turn this over, I think, to Butch. I think I'm going to turn this over to David. And then we'll come back, we'll have some questions, and we'll wrap it up. Thank you all. There you go.
Nope, don't need it.
You don't need it?
Don't need it. I'm wired.
All right.
I'm wired for sound. So, I did this a year ago, and at that time, the game was less done than it is. But okay, so my first slide is the sound test. That's out of self-defense because video's easy, sound is always hard in presentations. So let me start this, and it'll make some Hobbit sounds. If I can find the button. There it is. Hobbit sounds. Okay, so yeah, almost. There's a tradition in like game guys who go to conferences to talk about game development, and they'll do a thing called a postmortem. So a game was done, some big, massive, multiplayer, AAA, $20 billion title, and then it's done, it's being sold, and then they'll go to a game conference, and they'll have what's called a postmortem, where they discuss what went right, what went wrong, da-da-da-da. And when I prepared this presentation about 3 weeks ago, I had it in my mind that this would be the Hobbit Pinball sound postmortem, because I would be released from Middle-earth. It hasn't worked that way, but it's not so bad. It's almost done. I want to thank Jack for inviting me to talk, and Butch for sharing the stage. And let me say right off, sound from my point of view is 95% done. Thank you, Butch. Now, the average time that I've spent working full-time on a pin, and I've done almost 30, a pinball sound package is roughly 5 or 6 month project. There's a lot of elements, a lot of call-outs, and write music, and sound effects, and coordinating all that stuff. But usually, if you work full-time on it and everything's falling in line, it's about a 6 month project. Well, I've been on The Hobbit for 22 months. And to be fair, I have not worked full-time on The Hobbit, but some kind of rough estimate is that I think full-time on The Hobbit's been about 11 months, 11 to 12 months. It's a big project with a whole lot of work. And so for those of you who are getting it, I'm just going to let you know. I mean, I don't think you have never purchased a product with as much stuff in it. You're likely, if you keep buying pinballs for the next 10 years, not going to purchase a product with that much stuff in it. Something happened on the way to Middle-earth that allowed this project to expand geometrically. It wasn't the best business even, but it's the right thing for this title. And so it is what it is. I'm thrilled to be associated with it. And you know, now it's done. Most of the pain is over, and I'm going to be freed from Middle-earth anytime now.
The last of the great dwarf kingdoms of Middle-earth.
Okay, so the hot button is call-outs. I could write the best music in the world, put in the most fantastic sound effects in a pinball, And some guy on Pinside is going to say but who's going to say what? You know, so okay, let's concentrate on that. What we ended up with is about 147 call-outs from that guy, Ian McKellen, pulled from the movie, repurposed for the different pinball events. Not all of them are being used currently, but they're in the build, which means the programmers can choose to use them at any time. So each week as they continue to hobbit away on this project, they surprise me of having put more call-outs into the game. So they've got them, and that's 147 Ian McKellums, Gandalf. Our wizard. Now, you need custom call-outs because in a gigantic lack of foresight, Peter Jackson never really had any of his actors talk about jackpots or multi-ball or anything useful to us. So we arranged to have custom call-outs done. Now, we couldn't get Ian McKellen, and it's a long story that's not even interesting, so I won't go there. But I did an exhaustive casting call looking at people who could be a wizard, be dramatic, and not just mimic Ian McKellen saying lines from the movie. I need somebody who's smart and an actor who can sell saying jackpot as a wizard. And our wizard is that guy. And his name is Quentin Capel, and he doesn't look like a wizard.
Press the ring button.
But he sounds like a wizard. Actually, he's not Gandalf, and he's not trying to be Ian McKellen. This is Ian McKellen's cousin, Gundalf. And for our purposes, he functions just fine as a wizard.
Time runs short.
It works, right? I like him. So we recorded him, but we had to get him cleared before we did our big script. First, we had to get the script approved by Warner Brothers because they weren't going to let a wizard within the pinball Hobbit universe just say anything. So you get the script cleared, then you get the talent cleared. And that was interesting. And actually, Warner Brothers was a fabulous licensor. They were very liberal. I almost died in an avalanche of Hobbit sound assets. I almost got lost in 7.5 hours of sound effects and 7.5 hours of dialogue. I almost was never found, but with the custom voice thing, we sort of got mixed feedback when we submitted Quentin because we got in the same email back after having submitted the first audition thing, we got something from creative saying, I don't know, the accent isn't quite right and he seems a bit too assertive. Is there somebody else? And then we got from legal, Warner Brothers Legal, no, you can't do this. He sounds way too much like Ian McKellen. Now, I'm reading this email trying to hold these two thoughts into my head simultaneously without my head exploding because I'm not quite sure how to resolve this. And I got back to the guys in Chicago. And so we took Quentin and I picked different takes that I had pre-recorded out of his audition. I dropped him over a music bed. I did some stuff, added a little reverb. We sent it back. They liked that. So that's Quentin. And we have, I don't know, over 200 custom lines of Gundalf telling you to do things. And not all that stuff is yet programmed, you know, go to the left, use the right ramp, time is up. He does all the important things that you want to know when you're not looking up, when you're very busy. Okay, the other thing, and this is the only repeat from last year, but I'm proud of this, so I'm going to just repeat it. You know, when you have, we have pulled dialogue from 3 movies from 40 different characters. And then that's a total of 1,295 call-outs that have been pulled out of all those movies that are in the build, and a lot of it's being used in the game now. But one of the challenges in using all this dialogue that wasn't recorded for the use of a pinball machine is finding ways to use it that, you know, evokes the Middle-earthness of it all, but makes sense within the pinball context. So I'm always, when I'm cutting these things out and labeling them and tagging them, I'm always like thinking, gee, how could I use these phrases somewhere else? And so this is a good example, my favorite one. And I feel very strongly that one of the things in a coin-operated device that we should make a big deal out of is you pressing the start button, because you've just spent money. And if I could do anything for you, I would do it at that time, and all I do is sound. So I think it's really good to try to make that entertaining. And so we repurposed, I think there are more than I have here, about a dozen appropriate things that play when you hit the start button. So you can start the game about 12 different times and not repeat.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
So, this is the Hobbit.
I'm going on an adventure!
Welcome, Master Baggins.
In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit.
Well, well, well! Look who it is!
Does it like games? Does it like to play?
You've been sitting quietly for far too long.
Get off your ass and play some pinball. That's the second half. So there are lots of other places where we've done that, and that's just part of the interesting puzzle. When you do a license, you have a whole lot of assets that you have to think about repurposing to some good purpose. Okay, we're going to do some music. Oh no, sorry, smog.
How do you choose to die? My claws are spears. I think our little game ends here.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I actually had to get some, my smog's wired improperly, so he doesn't do that great puppetry stuff. We have a lot of smog. We have pretty much every line that he spoke in. He's in 2 of the movies where he talks. And some of them work really well for like jackpot events and stuff. And they all have that puppeteering, which doesn't come for free. Ted has to sit there and say, okay, the syllables here, open his mouth this much. The syllables closing here, let's see, this is a sound, so he doesn't open his mouth, and it, you know. It's pretty cool. And I don't know if people, when you play it, have actually, can I do that one again? Why am I asking myself?
How do you choose to die? My claws are spears. I think our little game ends here.
So what's happened in the last couple of months too, is we tried to find more opportunities for Smog to talk. Initially he only talked during multi-ball, and originally all that choreography was a hot mess. It was goofed up, and we fixed that all up. And then he talks at Game Over. Now he talks on the second lock event. He talks actually in the first, he doesn't talk, he goes on the first lock event when you lock a ball. Second one, there's about 5 phrases that he says. And so we keep looking for opportunities for him to use the Smog that we've got. What happens next? Okay, originally, I was not the sound guy on this project. Jack hired a company called Two Steps from Hell, which is really two guys, and they were customers of Jack. And what they do for a living is they write music that's played behind movie trailers. Coming next summer to a theater next to you. And they had that music, right? Because they almost never use the music from the real film because it's probably not done yet. So these guys Thomas Burgenson and Nick Phoenix have this thing called Two Steps from Hell, and they write epic music. It's a genre I was unaware of until I got to this project, right? Epic music. And in fact, they are the leading guys on like iTunes. They have the equivalent of gold records for epic music. And it's a great idea to put epic music in the Hobbit pin. It actually is grander than the stuff written for the movie, and it worked out much better. But kind of when they have this library, plus they wrote a lot of original things for the game, and it's great stuff. I think I have one more. In case there was any doubt, that's epic music, okay? If you took all the music cues that are currently installed in the build and you played them back to back, which I couldn't do because I promised I would only take about 12 minutes here, there's over an hour of music in the Hobbit pin. Because these guys, unlike somebody who's done a pinball machine before, just delivered these cues to me, and some of them are a minute, some of them are a minute and a half, some of them are 2 minutes long. You know, most modes are designed to end in 30 seconds, so they're in there. But you'll never really hear them all, and I suspect if these guys have it together, they will issue an album, a triple album of music from The Hobbit. And if you're interested, that's their thing. So moving along, this is the third asset class, which is all about sound effects. And again, I had a ton of riches to mine. 7 almost to 8 hours worth. Now these are a lot more difficult to deal with than, let's say, call-outs. When you're listening to a movie soundtrack and you're just listening to the voice track, it's pretty obvious what they're saying, and most of the time I can figure out which of the 13 dwarfs it is saying it. But for sound effects, you hear a or a squish or a thing. I'm not quite sure who did that and exactly what they're doing. So I build a version of each movie because I have the asset, which is nothing but sound effects. There's no music, there's no dialogue, it's just sound effects. And I'll build a version of the movie in my video editor so that when I watch the movie, all I'm hearing are the sound effects. And then when I go through to pull these things out, it's a lot easier. I can tag them with things that make sense. So here's an example of that. It's still kind of messy, but it's possible at least. So, I want to talk about stingers. And that's one of them. So stingers are things, they're sound effects, but typically they're kind of like music, or not necessarily. But they're things in the game that tell you you did something. They have to be short because you're doing stuff all the time. And it was disturbing. I mean, I follow Pinside from time to time, and hobbits are getting out there in the wild, and people are getting their hobbits, and then they're making all these remarks, you know, and all this stuff, and they say, well, gee, this game will be so much better when all the stingers get installed. And I was like, you know, all the stingers are mostly installed. So, you know, I can only take that comment as that some of them aren't big enough, because if you didn't notice, if somehow you missed that, then I somehow need to make it bigger. So there are 442 of those in the build, because you need all different kinds of stingers for the 44 modes that are in the game. Some modes take as many as 17 scoring things to actually complete the mode, and they all need unique stingers. You don't do the same. You could do the same one every time, but that wouldn't be good. So there are purposes for the stingers, and one of the things is to introduce a mode, so people know a mode is starting. Players know. There are 32 book modes, and every book mode has some kind of unique stinger to let you know, A, a mode is starting, and it's B, mode 17. And they typically go with video. And that's the music that it lives over. But that music gets like ducked way down, and that's, you know, I score this little movie, which is the introduction for Mode 19, which is the flashback scene of the men fighting the dragon, blah, blah, blah. And these things will typically have, you know, for The Hobbit, they have orchestral stuff mostly. Now, it's very important, especially for the completion, successful completion of a mode, that A, you know the mode ended, and if you completed it successfully, that we reward you with that. And again, typically there's video that goes with that, so these little scored movies that let you know this is a completed mode. That's the demise of Bolg, who's Azog's son by another woman, I don't know. There is a challenge here with the overall game design of The Hobbit, though, which I'll just, you know, cut me some slack. Sometimes I just can't tell you things with clarity because you've stacked one of these modes inside a 4-ball multi-ball. And in the midst of all that chaos, a mode ends. I'm just, you know, I cannot design a stinger which is with total clarity going to tell you, oh, you know, with all this stuff going on, oh yeah, your mode ended. Yeah, so cut me some slack. That part of it, players love stacking modes. It's greater scoring opportunities, a lot of strategic play. I get that. But it does make the sound guy's life hell. And scoring something, you want to know. And so there's some kind of unique, hopefully exciting and rewarding thing that happens every time you score something. So that was for a super jackpot. After you've gone all the way in the upper right-hand quadrant, gone all the way to the thing, you turn on the super jackpot feature. Okay, so that's the next one. When you've done something like activate a feature, you want to know that you're now in an enhanced scoring state so that you do that thing a lot. There's a target facing the player on the right out lane. Doesn't happen all that often. And that only got wired up recently. And what that is Bjorn, the guy who turns into a bear. Has anybody seen The Hobbit? Okay, good. Bjorn, the guy who turns into a bear, well, that's his feature. So when you're in multi-ball, if you drain one of those multi-balls, and the ball happens to hit the little green stand-up on its way to the drain, it's at a ball. But if we don't make a big deal out of a big deal, then it won't be a big deal, and you won't even know what happened. So this is our attempt at making that event, you know, obvious to you. Atta-ball, damn it. Guy falls from sky, turns into bear, hits a bunch of guys on the ground. Atta-ball. Num 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 num. Those are your mandatory happy dwarves, and I'm happy because I'm nearly out of Middle Earth and it's almost done. And I'm kind of moving, when the 3 mini wizards are done and all the glue to hook up the Arkenstone shards, all the little sounds that tell you, ooh, you got shard number 2, you got shard number 3, ooh, light the thing for mini wizard modes. When all that's done, and I can't do it because they haven't coded it, but they're going to code it like any day now. They may have coded it this weekend. I'll find out on Monday. So I'm almost into a maintenance mode, which should make you happy because you want a complete game. You want it all done, and I want it all done. And first I wanted fabulous, and then I want it all done. Oops, wrong direction. That's it. Thank you. Oh, you have sound?
Nope.
You don't have sound. Oh.
Maybe, may not have any at all. Got me. Yeah,
You got it. You want to move over? Move over.
I have to move everything though. We got a long enough cable here, don't we? Yeah, sure. Nothing falls off. It's long.
You're going to stay there?
Yeah, I'm gonna stay here. It's my spot.
Oh, man, my spot. You military guys. It's all about land acquisition.
Yeah. So my name is Butch Peel. I work with engineering and documentation and part numbering and shows and a bunch of other things. I'm one of those guys like Nolan Bushnell was talking about that just has a passion for this stuff like you wouldn't believe. I love pinball, love everything about it. I'd like to first off thank Mike and Chris back there. These guys sit back there all day long doing this. Imagine doing that for a show. I mean, just to take care of people like me and Dave and Jack. We could walk up here and just sit down and start talking. Those guys that's a thankless task, and they do a great job. They put all this, stream it all, make sure our mics work, batteries are charged, and cables are long enough. It's great. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Coach.
And that voice that tells you got 5 minutes left, it's kind of scary, like a burning bush or something. But and thank everybody at these shows. These guys running around out here with orange shirts on, fixing games so that we can keep them playing. All these guys have volunteered. None of these shows happen. We are just so blessed to be able to fly into the next city. Like Jack's going to be in Atlanta, I'm going to be in Denver, and we're going to walk in there and they're going to have everything all set up for us again. And we just walk in and we meet a bunch of great people, answer some questions. It's really the coolest job in the world, but it wouldn't be possible without all the volunteers. And so thank anybody you see that's associated with any of these shows, because without them, we wouldn't have anything to do. We'd be those guys, other guys Bushnell was talking about, that are just sitting there doing nothing. So thanks to everybody for having us. I've been working on, I wrote the Wizard of Oz manual, that big long thing. I spent many months on that. I can definitely attest to putting a lot of effort into things. I've been working at least 2 years. It's longer than that. It's got to be 3 years maybe on the Hobbit manual. Not quite done yet. Soon we will have something in the game. A lot more use of color, a lot more diagrams, a lot more everything in it. So as Jack always says, the Wizard of Oz, we try to make that our worst game. We'll try and make the Hobbit manual better than the Wizard of Oz manual. So it's always just trying to make it better and do things even better than we did last time. One of the things that I get a lot of times when I stand out, I'll walk up and I'll see people playing the game and I'll say, everything working okay? Any problems? Any issues you notice? And someone will see that I work for the company, and next thing you know, they were, well, how do you do this in the game? What should I be shooting for? And then as soon as one of those asks and I start answering, now looking up and there's like 3 or 4 people in line waiting to have a question and answer session too. So to those people I say, I'm glad you asked, because I have a few rules here for you. If you want to know anything, just light stuff. I'm not going to tell you how to get to the wizard mode or anything like that right at this moment, but just some things to do when you get up to the game so that you don't walk up there. It's just total sensor overload when you walk up to the game. It just, what in the heck, everything's flashing, there's sounds, there's beautiful music playing, what am I supposed to do? I get asked, the plunger seems awful weak on that game compared to the Wizard of Oz. Why is that? Well, it's because all the skill shots are in the lower portion of the playfield, and some of them are literally, drop it out of the plunger lane and into one of the flipper return lanes. I mean, the shot is that long with a little curl on it. You don't need much spring to do that. So a lot of people are pulling on it really hard, expecting to try and shoot it hard. So they compress the spring, and you get these little problems. But like Jack says, we work our way through those. And I just want to explain a little bit about what to do when you come up to the game. So when you walk up and you start a game, you get your skill shot is your first item here, and the ring button at that point is functioned to let you choose, basically call your skill shot. So in this area of the quadrant of the LCD up in the back box, you'll see that it says change skill shot. So every time I press that, then I cycle through all these different skill shots. There's a moving target here. These targets will just bounce from one to the next, one single target, and then it'll reset and it'll come back up, and you try and hit the moving target with the ball launched out of the lane. That's one of them. Another one is the elf targets on the left side of the playfield. If you shoot the ball extremely skillfully and drop it onto that first target, it'll drop down and knock the other two targets down. The more elf targets you knock down, the more points you'll score. Then you can choose to try and shoot at one of the moving in lanes for the beasts. There'll be a yellow one that's moving, and they'll turn blue, and it'll just keep bouncing across here. And if you can drop that into the yellow one, time it, and it's very difficult to do, but imagine you're going to get a commensurate skill shot award, drop it into there, and as soon as that happens, then it'll kick one of the pop-ups up, and as it comes through the lane and you hit that guy, and you can collect a big skill shot award. And then the last one that's kind of cool is to try and put the ball, roll it gently across in an arc that goes across all 4 lock letters, and in that case, as soon as you launch the ball, you're ready to lock your first multi-ball, and you're ready to get going on that. The cool thing about all of the skill shots is they're not just a skill shot that has nothing to do with the game. If you launch up here and you knock down one of the drop targets up here, or you knock all the elf targets down, you'll have qualified all the elf modes right there. Those 3 targets stay down, it's part of the game, it's part of the rule set, so the skill shot's integrated into gameplay, which is really kind of cool. Smaug multi-ball, that's the big and the most accessible, maybe not most accessible, the beast one's not too bad either, but you're gonna spell lock using the lock letters here in the middle of the playfield. You can do that on your skill shot, or the ball just rolling over those. They'll be blinking when they haven't been hit by the ball. They'll go solid when the ball rolls over them. And you'll get to see what kind of progress by the blinking or being solid on here. You also get lock shown on here. The letters will be spinning around, and when you make one of the letters, they'll stop spinning and be where you can read it. And then you shoot the right ramp to lock the ball. It goes around behind Smaug. It gets diverted alongside him. He turns around, growls at you, says some things, whatever. And you do that 3 times, and you will be in multi-ball. Another indicator of how many balls you've got locked is on the play field in the center here. There's a lock 1 and a lock 2. And then there's also an actual pinball that's kind of put into the foreground here, whereas there were none before. When you've locked 2 balls, there'll be 2 balls locked here in front. And now this shoot the right ramp is going to actually start my multi-ball. And then of course, once you get into multi-ball, the different inserts in the play field, they'll be, the ones they want you to shoot at will be kind of like a torch colored, an orange colored, and it looks like they're flickering. So you just kind of look around the play field, scan, and it keeps track of your multi-ball jackpot shots. There'll be a window that appears on the side of the screen here telling you how many jackpots you've hit. Hit enough jackpots and you can go after the super jackpot. Beast multi-ball, you're going to start off with none of the beasts will be up. They of course are stuck in the playfield. These guys will all be lit initially. Anytime a ball goes through a lit in lane, it then kicks up one of the beast mechanisms. So this light here triggers that beast. When the ball comes down here, you shoot and hit him when he pops out of the playfield. It's a hurry up feature, so you only have a couple of seconds to do that. When he disappears, if you did not hit him, you'll have to relight the light and get it going again in order to hit him and collect him. When you actually have collected him, the little arrow in front of him will turn like a yellowish color. So when you look around the play field, you can immediately see how many of the beasts I've done to qualify towards my 2-ball beast multi-ball, and the ones I need to get and try and focus on. So each one of those then is married to a beast. So this outer in lane actually triggers the spider over there. The next one triggers I believe that's the orc there, and then we've got the warg on the right hand side. Now all progress is gonna be kept here in the LCD in one of the lower quadrants here. And when one's ready, it'll say it's ready. That means that the next time a ball rolls over it, it's gonna trigger it up. Ones that have been defeated, you'll see them up here as pictures. Ones that aren't even lit will just be like this brick wall feature there, so you can look at that too. People can watch the game. That's the cool thing about the LCD, is that someone standing next to the game can watch and see all the cool video clips and things, and it's a fun game to watch as well as play. So you don't get so bored when someone else is having a great ball. There's plenty of things to look at and check out. And you know, pinball's a social game. There's a reason why you push the button 3 or 4 times and you play with your friends. It's not meant to be stuck in your mom's basement and you play all by yourself. So modes, we have 31 of these modes. Every one of these honeycomb little features inside here are modes. You'll see the currently selected mode will be kind of pulsating and getting bigger and smaller in front of you. The other ones that are qualified will be kind of a grayed out color. Ones that have been played and finished will have a color note to them. The ones that are completely grayed out are not yet qualified. So in order to qualify modes, you have to shoot the dwarf drop targets. Now these are the drop targets themselves. As they pop up, you'll knock all those down. Each one of those is worth a letter, DWARF. Once you've got all those qualified, it'll light up those modes, and then they'll start being available for you to play. Qualify the elf modes, you got to hit the ELF targets here on the side. And your progress towards that is shown up here, as in addition to the drop target itself being down or up. Anything that's up needs to be knocked down. Man, the target's on the right hand side. So MAN, again, knock those down, and I'm pointing with my finger, that's really helpful, isn't it? So yeah, get the man drop targets. Then there's the Gandalf ones, which are on the right ramp. There's the Bilbo and Gandalf, Bilbo was the right ramp, Gandalf is the left ramp. And the features are labeled with the characters in front of them. And then there's also a Radagast, which is this Vuck over here on the right hand side. Once you've qualified all the modes, the currently selected mode, like I say, will be pulsating over here, and it'll be shown on the book LCD over here in the corner of the screen. So it'll tell you what you're due to start right now. If mode is lit on that ramp and you shoot that ramp, it will start the mode that's being shown on the honeycomb here and in the screen on the book mode. So there you go there. You can change that mode now. You can use the left ramp. When it's labeled book, every time you shoot the ramp, as the ball rolls past the book, a page will turn on it and it'll switch to the next mode over. And another little trick for you guys, the kind of little known thing like the Bjorn target that Dave was talking about, is when you shoot that left ramp on the book mode, you can flip the flipper buttons really quick, and if you're fast, you can select the exact mode you want to play out of all the ones that are qualified before the ball drops down onto the flipper switch down here and is ready to hit. So once you've got it selected, what you want to play, then you can just shoot the right ramp, and the ball will come all the way around and drop into the wind lance over here, and it'll fire and start a timed mode. The book LCD then will start with a timer, and it'll be counting down how many seconds you have. It'll tell you what you need to do in order to finish that mode. You're shooting a dwarf target in this case that's bouncing around, and the title of the mode and some video will be playing, and some of lovely sound effects and things that Dave worked so hard on will be playing, and little stingers and things like that. Shoot lit shots. They'll also when it tells you that it's shooting the dwarf targets, the dwarf target that it wants you to hit will be in that orange, fire kind of torch-like flickering light underneath the insert. So you've got a bunch of visual cues. A bunch of your friends can be telling you, you got 20 seconds, hit the dwarf target, hit the dwarf target. A lot of things like that to help you along. Other objectives, the spinners on the sides here are actually advancing you towards Erebor. And you'll see this map kind of scroll as the spinners are hit. You hit really ring the spinner, send it around. You'll move along the path. The ring shows your current location, the kind of you are here at the mall sort of indicator. You move that along the path. And as you get to Erebor, that'll start up the super spinners, and you can, light the spinners and hit them multiple times, build up a big jackpot and score a bunch of points. But it takes quite a while to get there, but those are available through either of the orbit shots. Your stand-up targets and other targets around the playfield, there are a bunch of them because there were a bunch of dwarves. You're going to collect dwarves. Every one that you've collected will be highlighted here. The ones that are grayed out are the ones that have not been collected. There's the dwarf targets now are the yellow targets behind the drop targets. So a lot of the modes protect those, and it's harder. You have to knock the drop targets down in order to be able to access the yellow targets behind them, and thereby collect the dwarves as you shoot. But some of the spinners are actually dwarves themselves, Keely and Feely and Touching Feely, whatever those guys' names are. There's a captive ball in the center here for Thorin, and there's a Vuck over here for Balin. So you have to knock it in the Vuck, and then of course all the yellow targets behind the drop targets over here behind man and all. So 12 total dwarves, and then you have Gandalf and Bilbo. That's the 14 that made up the big party. Ring button functions. You can select and highlight your skill shot. You're basically calling your shot. You can let the game will choose you a skill shot. If you just want to attempt that and not change it, you can look at what's lit up before you launch the ball and go for that. It's a lot funner though, I think, to kind of call your shot and show how you meant to do that kind of thing. It can be set to start the game. We have a setting in our menus that people have a hard time finding the start button for some reason on a pinball machine. If you make it where the button up there on the top blinking at them, they'll push that, and you can make it where that starts the game if you so desire. You can use it to collect points. As the game goes on in that one part of the quadrant on the LCD, you'll see that the ring buttons will start glowing blue in front of you, and it tells you what it's going to do in that corner over there of the LCD. It tells you if it's going to give you points, if it's going to do something like a delay lock or a delay mode function. If the ball, for instance, the right ramp is lock or mode, and you can start a mode or I'm sorry, lock or, yeah, that's right, lock or mode. You can delay the mode or you can delay the lock. And you can, in Wizard of Oz, for instance, if you want to try and make the spinning house up there, to get the ball up onto the spinning house playfield, you finish the rainbow targets. But if you spell one of the characters first, the lock takes precedent over the rainbow, so it doesn't go on to the spinning house playfield. Well, now you've got the choice here with this game. It's a lot more, gives you a lot more flexibility and lets you be more strategic with your moves. But you can actually tell it, no, I don't want to lock right now. I want to start a mode because I've got it on the mode I want to start. So, delay lock, delay mode, and it'll give you a few seconds then to make that right ramp shot and have it do what you want it to do, not what the game, have to make some kind of a choice for you. You can attempt a beast backstab with the ball. So if one of these beasts here pops up out of the playfield, you can say, I want to try a backstab, push the lock button, the ring button, you're going to have to let go of your flipper button and shoot the ball, and instead of hitting him in the face, you're going to try and go up the ramp. It's going to activate the diverter. Whoops. Go backwards, sorry. It's going to activate the diverter, and the ball come down and hit him in the backside, and that's a backstab. So a lot of things you can try and do with that button. Sometimes it lights up a function like a Thorin. It'll light the Thorin feature. That's another thing that the button can do. And then it's used to fire the wind lance. In some of those cases, on the left side of the playfield, you'll see like a strength gauge come up when it's going to start a mode, and then you're actually trying to hit something, and the higher that is on the strength mode, when you hit the ring button, the more strength that kicker has to try and shoot something higher up the playfield or not so high up the playfield. And then of course on the right hand side, there's ball save features where the Gollum character, when the outlane is lit, the ball goes out that outlane, you'll see a big gauge on the screen there, and it'll have a little blue area in it, and it'll be bouncing up and down. And if you can stop it with the ring button in that blue area, you get your ball back. So that's kind of a cool feature there too. And I'll be around. You see me out there, feel free to ask me questions. Jack, anybody? And I'm gonna bring Jack back up here now. We're all available the whole show here, so. We're here for you.
Thank you, Butch.
I think it's back on.
I wasn't going to jump on the stage. Actually, I fell off my pinball sales truck on Saturday. This is a really great video if anybody wants to see it. You can't really believe it's me, but my left leg went down as I jumped off that truck 10,000 times. My left leg went down and my right leg got caught on the diamond plate. And I went and I rolled and
Not pretty.
I laid on the ground for a few minutes, actually.
He checked his phone to make sure his phone was still working.
I did. I checked my
before
phone
any of the
first, you can
bones.
see in the video. And I'm here, you know, it pays to go to church on Sunday. Nothing really, you know, I guess. So the security camera captured it, and one of my tech guys, Dan Latella, who's a great guy, he was watching the video and he says, "Who is that? Is that you?" "It's me." "Oh my gosh." So you know, if it went a different way, they would have found me in the parking lot on Monday and they would have figured it out. They would have watched the video. So everything went well though. I appreciate that. So I'm not jumping right now. Nothing hurts me. My hip hurt a little bit, but I'm okay. What the hell did I come up here for? Oh, questions. Anybody have any questions? Good. No, yes.
You're doing a different thing with the video screen. You have a lot going on up there, and all of us pinball.
Oh
you're
my God.
jumping.
Jumping jack.
They never learned.
Hello. What happened?
You got 20 feet.
What happened to my mic? Hello? What happened to my mic, Mike? Thank you.
Mike?
Okay.
You have the screen. There's a lot going on up there. We're all trained to watch the play field. How do you balance those two?
So look, I've said it before. Young people, unfortunately, they text and drive, right? So the cool thing is, if you look at our games and you see a young player go to the game the first time, they don't have any bad pinball habits, like, tell me what the screen is doing, I gotta watch the ball, right? They absorb the whole game. What you need to do is you need to get a friend, tell you what the hell's going on, because otherwise you're not gonna know what's going on. Or what happens, what I said years ago before we made the game, I said, well, a lot of people are gonna gather around and watch the gameplay and absorb what's going on as it's happening. And that happens too. So I'm really happy with the video of the game. JP DeWin does an amazing job, and he's got his name on the game in Elfish. Elfish is the right language, right?
Elvish.
Elfish?
Oh, thank you very much. Oh my God.
Elvis has left the building, right? So he's got his name on there. It says JP DeWin was here on the plastic set. If anybody's interested, I'll show you where that is. And it says JerseyJack Pinball on the plastic set too.
And he got it by all the licensors. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we don't know anything about that, Butch. Right. So so
evidently not.
I'm really happy. Does anybody know? I'm going to ask you a question now. Anybody know why there's a 27-inch HD LCD monitor in the back box of our game? Anybody know? What? Right?
Because they
That's
didn't
right.
make a 28.
That's right. That's the biggest one that I could put in there. That's exactly right. You know, some other people will probably put monitors in their games. I got to be honest with you. The dollar amount that you spend to put the piece of hardware in the game is not the cost. The cost is spending several $100,000 to create what goes on there and make sure you choreograph the content to be something valuable to the player, and something that will immerse the player experience, and something that will get people to come to play the game. So that's really where the money is. Anybody have another question? Yes?
How did you know that it was the right time, and how do you know you could do it?
Do what? The business. I mean, how do you
Oh my gosh. How do I know it was the right time? How do I know I could do the business? We don't have enough time for that, but I will say this, right? So, yeah. Well, look, you know, I don't want to say this. I'm in the industry 41 years. right? So I have a commercial side to my life, and I have the home game side to my life from pinballsales.com. And it really got difficult for a while. The economy wasn't good, and we weren't selling pinball machines. And a lot of people thought the economy was bad, so we're not selling pinball machines. And then I kind of thought, well, you know, we sell everything nobody needs, right? Who the hell needs a pinball machine, whether it was $4,000, $5,000, whatever it was? And I said, well, maybe there's a market for it. So that's why I kind of did the pre-order thing. I don't think anybody could say, hey, let me take X millions of dollars. You heard Nolan said he lost a fortune playing with robots, right? So a fool and his money is soon parted. Not that he's a fool, but I figured if everybody would believe in making a pinball company, well, let's go and we'll make a game. And that's kind of what it was. You know, did I know it would work? Yes. Yeah, I have to say, like, as an idiot, look, if I didn't believe it would work, I wouldn't have done it. But again, thank God for the customer support and family and God and everything like that. So, yes.
Jack, back in 2011, when you spoke in June in Seattle, this is related to his question. You also said that you felt, through your lifelong history with pinball, you felt pinball went up and down in like 7-year cycles. That was 5 years ago now, and you said you thought pinball was an upswing and it was time was right for the Wizard of Oz. Where do you think we stand now?
You have a great memory because, you know, when we came to the show in 11, we just started the company. We came to the show in 12, and Keith and I drove up from E3 in LA, and we brought the game. It was a box of lights, you know, the famous box of lights game. And everybody was like, you know, it was the first game to ever use all RGB LEDs. It was the first game to do a lot of things. In the cycle of things, and look, the seasons go in cycles, and business goes in cycles. If you have stock in Apple, don't worry. It went down, it'll go up, it'll go down, it'll go up, it'll go down. Right? That's what happens. I honestly have to revise what I said then, and you have a great memory. We're in the beginning right now of a boom in pinball. Really. And when I sold games at pinballsales.com years ago, we sold games to the home when really nobody was doing it because there were no games out on location. And you wanted to recapture your youth, okay? And you wanted to bring games home and cocoon. Remember, after 9/11, a lot of people stopped taking vacations. They bought hot tubs and home theaters and game rooms, and all that stuff was going on. So think about this. What I said then, there was an article in 2002 in Replay Magazine that I write for, where I got my name, JerseyJack, and I said, we're growing the next crop of pinball players because these kids that are 10 years old, that have a pinball machine in their home right now, in 10, 15 years, they're 20, 25 years old, they got out of school, they're going to be looking to play games because they grew up with them in their homes. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. And then there's us. And you know, really, again, if you think about it, when there was only one company on planet Earth really building pinball machines, Stern. And Stern's a great company. Remember, I was the biggest distributor for years. You got games, certain games, because of me. You got Shrek because of me. It was my idea to take Family Guy and turn it into a different game. And Gary and I on a car ride came up with the idea. Well, let's make Shrek. Okay, there you go. Pat Lawler didn't like that idea, but we liked the idea. And we made it. We made a lot of great games. You got me to blame for all the LE games that came out. You have me maybe to blame for higher prices on pinball machines. I don't really know. But listen, if you're paying them, it's your fault that you're paying them. It's not my fault, right? So think about this, right? When there was one company, and I'd be with Gary a lot. Gary's a great guy. And people would say, you're the last company. No, we're not the last company. We're the only company. Okay, Gary. L is for last, is loser, right? So when you have two companies, and you have Spooky, and you have Highway, and you have the Dutch guys, and you have the guys at Fast Pinball, and they have like 60 guys in there trying to make pinball machines, and there's another 50 people, 60 people, 10,000 people around the world that say, they looked at me, and they said, hey, that guy Jack, he's not so smart. I've heard him speak. Okay? He's not so smart. He started a pinball company. I could start a pinball company. Okay, well, if you're not the Predator guy or John Papaduke or a few other people, you know, maybe it worked out for you. But you know what? Not everybody's Jack. Okay? It's a commitment. It's the knowledge. It's surrounding yourself with really great people. It's not having an ego to believe you're the smartest guy in the room. Most times I love it when I'm the dumbest guy in the room, because then I know I surrounded myself with really great people. You got to be humble. You have to build a team. You have to collaborate. So pinball right now, to me, just my 41 years experience. Remember, I'm an electronics technician. I'm an operator, distributor. I've created game rooms, arcades. I've testified in towns where they wouldn't have an arcade and they got arcades. I've done a lot of different stuff in the industry, manufacturer. We're just beginning right now. We're just beginning. And the economy's turning around a little bit. It's still not great for everybody everywhere. But again, like I said, we sell everything nobody needs. So operators are putting games on location. I think you got at least 7 more years. And remind me, in another 5 years, I'll give you another 7 years. You know, Rodney Dangerfield, one of my favorite comedians, I guess one of his jokes was like, hey, I went to the doctor. He said I got 6 months to live. I told him I didn't have any money. He gave me another 6 months, you know. I don't know. I'll just extend it a little. Next question, if anybody has one. Yes.
I was just wondering if you have any updates that you can share with us around what you're working on with Lawler.
Okay, so the question revolves around Pat Lawler. Who is that guy? So Pat has, on September 16th this year, we'll celebrate Pat Lawler working for JerseyJack Pinball 3 years. So Pat is working on his game, and I see the guys back there from Stern, you know, taking notes about what Pat's doing. You know, Jerry and Dwight, you guys, it's okay. Pat's going to make a game that if I don't sell 6,000 or 7,000 of them, I'm getting out of the industry. I'm out. I'm leaving. Okay? So I can tell you, you know, listen, Pirates sold 7,000. Pirates was a great game. I sold 100 Pirates of the Caribbean in one day. I was stuck at an airport in O'Hare. I was stuck in the President's Club. There was thunderstorms in the Ohio Valley, and I was stuck there on July 14th, 2006. I sold 100 Pirates of the Caribbean. Great game. Simpsons, I don't know, I sold hundreds of them. Pat's game is something that's groundbreaking. It's something exciting. It's something whimsical. It includes a lot of features that are protected in our patent, and it's really great. And I can promise another thing. I can promise it's going to be on time, because I didn't say when it's going to be ready. So you have to say I actually learned something in these 5 years. You know, I got my ass kicked, and you know, unlike Nolan, there's no kids here. Let me talk about something I'm not supposed to talk about.
Hey, and you didn't take anybody's money.
I didn't take anybody's money. Thank you, Butch. Didn't take anybody's money. It's not going to be like a 3 or 4 year deposit cycle thing. It's going to be good. We'll show the game when it's done. You'll be able to order it. We'll be able to tell you when you're going to get it. And guess what? We'll be like a real company. Isn't that like an amazing concept? What a concept. Like an amazing company. So it's going to be great. Jack said so. Jack played it and he likes it. Okay? So 10,000 by Christmas. No, listen, that's another thing. I got to tell you something. I want to hold the price down on the game. You know, I don't believe in a $10,000 pinball machine out of the box. You know, people put more stuff in it. It goes up another 300, 400, 500, 600. Do we hear 700, 800, 900, 1,000? It's, you know, it's got to have a value. I think the Hobbit that's inside a standard Hobbit game, which is the same game as our LE or Smaug edition, it's the same play field, same rules and everything. It's $8,000. I mean, Medieval Madness Remake, which is a great game, but it's the remake. It's not. Was $8,000. That's probably the best value in the whole industry. If you don't believe that, play it and open it up, take a look at it. You know, we still have about 1,600 back orders to build. We're building about 15, 16 games a day. It's about 100 production days, so that's not bad. Next question, if any. Anybody? Yes.
How long do you think You'll be making Hobbit. How many months do you think you'll be making Hobbit?
Well, Hobbit, we have the license for a while. We'll work through our back orders. The good thing is that between Jen, my daughter, and I, we sell more Hobbits every day. And operator sales for me are really easy. Because operators say to me, I said it before, oh my God, your game's $8,000, if it was $6,000, I get. So I say to Joe operator, listen, take a game, don't give me any money. Don't give me any money. Just, if you don't like it, send it back. If you like it, call me up and pay for it. I've sent out a load of games. None of them came back. Everybody sent checks. And then they want a second and a third and a fourth. That's a really good sign. Because I don't have to say the game's good or the game's going to make money. Don't believe me, put the game on location. This guy wants to buy like 6 Hobbits himself. I don't even know how he could hold 1 Hobbit. He just wants to buy 6 Hobbits. So we're going to build it for a long time. We just set up another assembly line in our building just to do Wizard of Oz. Because we had 170 Wizard of Oz games around Christmas time, and some people in my building were rolling around. Oh my God, where we put it? Where we get? There are no games. We're out of games in April. We're out of games. We got people ordering 75th anniversary games right now. We got a waiting list starting again. We're only taking a few dollars on them, and next month we'll start building another 500 Wizard of Oz games. So we could keep going with that. Anyone? Yes. He's got to follow up this guy. Wait a minute. It'll trip me up.
Can you do 3 lines then?
Can we do 3 lines? That sounds like a question for Nolan, actually. Probably so in the building. I don't know. Could probably do 3 lines, maybe. I don't know how many. Possible. It's possible. I think really what'll happen, the Wizard of Oz will move off the line. Hobbit will move to the boutique line. And then Pat's game will move to the main line. That's probably what'll happen, in the beginning of next year, somewhere in there. In the first quarter or something like that, timing-wise. When am I announcing Pat's game? Here's the problem, and there's always a problem. Who's texting me? Don't talk about Pat's game. No, that wasn't really true. That was somebody tweeting. I think it was Ryan Adams. God bless Ryan Adams. I love him. Pat's game not being a licensed game, right? It's an original idea, which is really cool. If I start to tell you what it is, I'm going to wreck it. It's like retelling a joke. You need to see the game, So I think the way to show Pat's game is to show Pat's game. And you go play it, and you experience it, and you say, wow, I want one for each one of the rooms in my house. Let me get 6 of these things. Yes?
Where will you release it then?
It's where? Somewhere where there's electricity, probably. Probably, we still have to plug it in. So, where is an interesting question because it depends on when it's done. If it's done near this show or that show or the other show, it might be there. If it's done and there's no show, we'll create a show for it. We'll make an event and we'll announce it at that event. So I'm not, the good thing is I didn't put like a drop dead date when it's got to be done. I'd rather it be done when it's done. And I know all those cliches, you can't rush greatness and all this kind of stuff, but at some point or other it does have to be done. Yes, I know, it's kind of crazy. Anybody else?
Way to not answer the question.
No? All right, well, we all thank you. We all appreciate everything that you all do for pinball. I mean, we can't do anything for pinball unless you guys are involved. So I appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you. Thank you very much.